The massive viewing screen in the Galactic Council chamber showed a small fleet of ships approaching the diplomatic station. At first, many of the alien representatives thought there was something wrong with the display. The ships looked like tiny dots compared to even the smallest vessels used by Council races. "There must be an error in the scale," said Council Speaker Maxwell, his 4 eyes blinking in confusion. The blue-skinned alien adjusted his ceremonial robes and turned to his technical advisor. "Fix the display." "The scale is correct, Speaker," replied the advisor, checking his instruments again. "These are the actual dimensions of the approaching vessels." The chamber erupted in poorly concealed laughter and whispers. Representatives from over 50 spacefaring races exchanged amused glances. The largest ship in the approaching fleet was barely the size of a Council cargo shuttle. Aboard the lead ship of the human fleet, Admiral James Ross stood calmly on the bridge of the HSS Swift Victory. At just 300 meters in length, his flagship was indeed small by galactic standards, but he knew size wasn't everything. 20 years of space exploration had taught humanity that bigger wasn't always better. "They're scanning us again," reported Lieutenant Adams from her station. "5th time in the last hour." Ross smiled. "Let them look all they want." Status of the escort ships. "All 4 ships reporting ready, sir. The Thunder, Lightning, Storm, and Rain are in perfect formation." The 5-ship diplomatic fleet approached the massive station that served as the Galactic Council's meeting place. Ross couldn't help but notice how inefficient the design was, all grand spaces and ceremonial architecture, with little thought to defensive capabilities or maintenance costs. The docking procedure took longer than necessary because the station's automated systems weren't designed for vessels so small. When Ross and his team finally walked into the Council chamber, the silence was deafening. Speaker Maxwell stood from his elevated podium, towering 3 meters tall. "Welcome, representatives of Earth." He said the word like he was still learning how to pronounce it. "We understand you wish to petition for recognition as a spacefaring species." Ross stepped forward, his dress uniform crisp and professional. "That is correct, Speaker. The United Earth government has achieved faster-than-light travel and established colonies beyond our solar system. We meet all criteria for Council membership as outlined in the guidelines we received." "Yes, yes," Maxwell waved a hand dismissively. "But surely these cannot be your actual military vessels. Where are your real ships of war?" "The Swift Victory and her escort fleet are indeed frontline combat vessels of the human Space Force," Ross replied evenly. "We find them more than adequate for our needs." This time the laughter wasn't even slightly concealed. A representative from the Kolgari Empire, known for their massive dreadnoughts, actually fell out of his seat. "Admiral Ross," Maxwell said, trying to sound diplomatic, "the smallest Council member race operates ships at least 8 times the size of your vessels. How do you expect to contribute to galactic security with such limited capabilities?" Ross had expected this reaction. Humanity had intercepted enough transmissions to know that the galactic community was obsessed with size and raw power. "We believe effectiveness in space combat comes from more than just scale, Speaker. Our ships are fast, maneuverable, and operated by crews trained to think creatively." "Yes, yes, very admirable," Maxwell said patronizingly. "But regulations are regulations. Since you have achieved faster-than-light travel, we cannot deny you basic membership status. However, given your technological limitations, you will be classified as a Category 4 civilization, technically spacefaring, but not yet ready for full Council responsibilities." Ross kept his face neutral, even as he noted how quickly they were being dismissed. He had served in Earth's old wet navies before joining the Space Force, and he remembered how aircraft carriers had once revolutionized naval warfare. Sometimes the biggest ships made the biggest targets. "We accept your classification, Speaker," Ross said calmly. "Earth looks forward to proving our worth to the Council over time." As the human delegation left the chamber, the laughter and jokes resumed. None of the Council races noticed the slight smile on Ross's face, or understood that humanity had long ago learned that underestimation by your potential opponents was an advantage all its own. The tiny human ships departed the station as quietly as they had arrived, leaving behind a council that had already forgotten about them. That would prove to be the first of many mistakes. 6 months after Earth's classification as a minor spacefaring race, the Galactic Council faced an increasingly serious problem. Pirates were attacking trade routes with growing boldness, and the massive council ships couldn't catch them. Another supply convoy hit, reported General Moore of the Human Space Force to Admiral Ross. They stood in Earth's main space traffic control center, watching dots of light move across a holographic display. Third one this week. Ross studied the attack patterns carefully. The human observation posts, considered too small to be worth noticing by most races, had been tracking these raids since they began. They're getting more organized, he said. These aren't random strikes anymore. The latest attack had destroyed a Colgary freighter convoy, despite the presence of a massive escort ship. The pirates had simply danced around the huge vessel, which turned as slowly as a planet in space. Council Defense Command is requesting information from all member races, Moore said, holding up a datapad. Even Category 4 civilizations. His tone carried a hint of irony. Ross straightened his uniform. Then let's give them what we know. The council chamber was less crowded than usual when Ross made his presentation. Many representatives were dealing with merchant guilds angry about lost shipments. Speaker Maxwell looked tired, his blue skin slightly pale. Admiral Ross, Maxwell said wearily, you may present your findings. Ross activated a holographic display showing ship movements across council space. The pirates are using a coordinated strategy, small fast ships striking from multiple directions. Their targets are predictable if you analyze the pattern correctly. He highlighted several likely next targets. A representative from the Targan Assembly laughed dismissively. And what would humans know about real space combat? Your entire fleet could fit in one of our cargo bays. Size isn't relevant to this analysis, Ross replied calmly. These raiders are succeeding because they're using similar tactics to what we've developed. Hit fast, strike weak points, disappear before the big guns can target you. Preposterous, the Targan representative said. No serious military force would operate that way. Speaker Maxwell raised a hand for silence. While we appreciate Earth's perspective, we will handle this situation through conventional means. The Council is deploying additional dreadnought patrols to affected sectors. Ross tried one more time. Speaker, those ships will be too slow to catch the raiders. We've tracked their movements. They never stay in one place for more than a few minutes. They're using the Council ship's size against them. Thank you, Admiral. Maxwell cut him off. That will be all. Back aboard the Swift Victory, Ross received increasingly concerning reports. The pirates grew bolder, hitting bigger targets. Council dreadnoughts arrived hours too late at every incident. Sir, Lieutenant Adams called out one quiet afternoon. Emergency transmission from Outpost 7. Ross hurried to her station. The small human observation post had been watching a distant trading hub. The message was brief but clear. A massive fleet of small ships had just dropped out of hyperspace near the hub. How many vessels? Ross asked. At least 300, sir. All of them similar in size to our ships. Ross's eyes narrowed. This was what he'd feared. The raiders had been testing defenses, learning patterns. Now they were ready for something bigger. Send a priority message to Council Defense Command, he ordered. Warn them that. Sir, Adams interrupted. The trading hub. It's gone dark. All communications just stopped. Ross gripped the back of her chair. The Council was about to learn a hard lesson about assuming bigger meant better. But maybe, just maybe, they'd finally be ready to listen about the advantages of smaller ships. Send a message to Earth Command, he said quietly. Tell them to prepare the fleet. The Council's going to need our help, whether they know it yet or not. As the Swift Victory's communication array lit up with distress calls from across Council space, Ross wondered how many more worlds would fall before the giant ships of the Council learned to respect their smaller cousins. He had a feeling they were about to find out. The Galactic Council's emergency session was interrupted by another urgent message. A third major trading hub had fallen to the pirate fleet. The massive Council ships arrived only to find smoking ruins and disabled defense platforms. Speaker Maxwell's blue skin had turned almost white with stress. How many systems lost? 7 in the past week, reported the emergency coordinator. The pirates strike everywhere at once. Our ships can't intercept them in time. The chamber doors burst open as Admiral Ross entered without waiting for permission. Speaker Maxwell, the situation is worse than you know. He strode to the central display. The pirates aren't just raiding anymore. They're building an empire. This time, nobody laughed at the human admiral. The massive viewing screen showed hundreds of small ships swarming through Council space like angry insects, striking and vanishing before the huge Council battleships could respond. Impossible, muttered the Targan representative. No fleet of tiny ships could defeat our dreadnoughts. They're not defeating them in direct combat, Ross explained. They're making them irrelevant. Your big ships can't catch them, can't corner them, can't force them to fight. The pirates strike, steal what they want, and disappear. By the time your dreadnoughts arrive, they're already gone. A new alert flashed across the screen. Another system was under attack. Our latest intelligence suggests they've united under a single leader, Ross continued. They're calling him the Pirate King, and he's using exactly the kind of tactics we warned you about. Speaker Maxwell slumped in his chair. What would you have us do, Admiral? Abandon our proven ship designs. Build vessels as small as yours. There was no mockery in his voice now, only desperation. No, Ross said firmly. But I have a different proposal. Let us help. The chamber grew quiet. Ross activated a new display showing the human rapid response fleet. 50 ships, none larger than 400 meters, all built for speed and maneuverability. My ships can match their tactics, Ross explained. We can intercept them, track them, fight them on their own terms, but we'll need full authority to operate in Council space. Maxwell looked at the other Council members. Many nodded slowly, their earlier arrogance replaced by grim acceptance of their situation. Very well, Maxwell said. What do you need from us? Keep your big ships protecting the major systems, Ross replied. They're excellent defensive platforms, but let us hunt the raiders. And I need access to your latest intelligence reports. Within hours, the human rapid response fleet deployed from Earth. Ross commanded from the Swift Victory, leading the first squadron of 10 ships. As they approached the latest trouble spot, his tactical officer called out, "Multiple contacts, sir. At least 30 pirate vessels attacking the colony on New Haven." Ross smiled grimly. "Launch our new combat drones. Let's show them what these tiny ships can do." The battle that followed would change galactic military doctrine forever. The human ships accelerated at speeds that made the Council observers dizzy. Their small size let them dive between the massive colony structures that larger ships had to go around. When the pirates tried to escape using their usual tactics, they found the humans could match their every move. "Sir," Lieutenant Adams reported with satisfaction, "the pirates are falling into confusion. They've never faced ships that could chase them before." Ross watched as his fleet executed the combat maneuvers they'd practiced for years. The pirates had learned to run from big, slow threats. They had no defense against enemies as quick and agile as themselves. "Signal the fleet," Ross ordered. "Begin Operation Wolfpack." As the human ships split into coordinated hunting groups, Ross thought about all the times the Council had dismissed Earth's fleet as too small to matter. Sometimes, he reflected, the most important lessons came in the smallest packages. The battle for New Haven would last another 6 hours. By its end, the pirates would learn that not all tiny ships were easy prey. Some of them had teeth. News of the victory at New Haven spread quickly through Council space. The human rapid response fleet had destroyed 12 pirate vessels, captured 3, and forced the rest to retreat without a single civilian casualty. But Admiral Ross knew this was just the beginning. "Track them," he ordered from the Swift Victory's bridge. "They'll lead us to their base." For 2 weeks, the human fleet followed the pirates' trail, gathering intelligence and winning smaller battles. Each engagement taught them more about their enemy's tactics. The Pirate King's forces were good, but they'd grown overconfident after years of easily escaping the Council's massive ships. "Sir," Lieutenant Adams called out during a quiet patrol. "Long-range sensors detecting a massive energy signature. It's like nothing we've seen before." Ross studied the readings. Hidden in an asteroid field was something big, very big. As the Swift Victory moved closer, its sensors revealed the truth. A massive space station, cobbled together from stolen ships and technology. "That's their headquarters," Ross said quietly. "And look there. That modified cruiser must be the Pirate King's flagship." The pirates had spotted them too. Alarms blared as hundreds of small ships poured out of hidden hangars. At their head was a vessel larger than any other pirate ship they'd seen, though still smaller than Council vessels. It bore strange markings and modifications that spoke of countless stolen technologies. "This is the Pirate King," a voice boomed across all communication channels. "So the famous tiny human fleet has found us. Impressive. But now you'll learn why we've ruled these spaceways." Ross opened a channel. "This is Admiral Ross. Surrender now, and we'll ensure fair treatment under Council law." The answer came in the form of plasma fire as the pirate fleet attacked. But this time, they faced an enemy that had studied their every move. "Execute Formation Delta," Ross commanded. The human fleet split into 5-ship hunting packs, just as they'd practiced. Each group targeted a specific section of the pirate fleet, using their superior coordination to divide the enemy's forces. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for generations. The human ships moved like dancers, their smaller size allowing them to execute maneuvers that larger vessels couldn't match. When pirates tried to use their usual hit-and-run tactics, they found the humans could turn faster, accelerate quicker, and aim better. "Sir," Adams shouted over the sound of stressed hull plates. "The Pirate King's flagship is making a run for the station." Ross watched as the modified cruiser tried to escape. "Not this time. All ships, execute Operation Thunderbolt." 20 human vessels broke from their formations and converged on the flagship from different angles. The pirate vessel was faster than most, but it couldn't watch all directions at once. The human ships fired precise shots at its engines, weapons, and command center. "You fool." The Pirate King's voice crackled over the comm. "You've ruined everything. We were going to reshape the galaxy, show them all that bigger isn't better." "You're right about one thing," Ross replied as his ships closed in. "Size isn't everything. But neither is speed alone. It's how you use what you have." The Swift Victory led the final attack run. Their weapons had been carefully calibrated to disable rather than destroy. One by one, the flagship's systems went dark. The mighty Pirate King, terror of Council space, was captured by ships he would have once dismissed as toys. As the battle ended, Ross looked at the tactical display. Over 200 pirate ships had been captured or destroyed. The remainder were surrendering to the human fleet, refusing to even communicate with the Council vessels that had finally arrived. "Send word to Earth Command," Ross ordered. "The pirates' main base is secure, and tell the Council." He smiled slightly. "Tell them that these tiny ships send their regards." The Swift Victory's crew cheered as the last pirate vessel powered down its weapons. Size, they had proven, was far less important than skill, coordination, and the willingness to think differently. The galaxy would never look at human ships the same way again. 1 month after the defeat of the Pirate King, the Galactic Council chamber was packed. Representatives from every spacefaring race had gathered to watch the ceremony. Speaker Maxwell stood at his podium, his blue skin now healthy again, his voice strong and clear. "We are here today," he announced, to recognize the extraordinary achievements of the human Space Force and their commander, Admiral James Ross. The massive viewing screen showed recordings from the final battle. Council members watched in amazement as the small human ships executed complex maneuvers that their own massive vessels could never attempt. The footage of the swift victory leading the final attack on the Pirate King's flagship drew gasps of admiration. Ross stood at attention in his dress uniform, his crew lined up behind him. He noticed there was no laughter today, no dismissive glances at their tiny ships. "Admiral Ross," Maxwell continued, "your fleet has not only eliminated the greatest threat to Council space in recent memory, but you have also taught us a valuable lesson. We had become complacent, believing that size and power were all that mattered in space combat." The speaker gestured to a group of senior military officers from various council races. "Our tactical experts have analyzed your battle recordings. Your wolf pack formations and rapid response strategies will now be required study at the Galactic Military Academy." Ross stepped forward to address the council. "Speaker Maxwell, honored representatives, we thank you for this recognition. Earth has always believed that innovation and adaptability are more important than raw size and power. We look forward to sharing our knowledge with all council races." "Indeed," Maxwell replied, "which is why the council has voted to create a new position, Head of Special Operations and Rapid Response. Admiral Ross, we would be honored if you would accept this role." The chamber erupted in applause. Even the Targan representative, who had once laughed at human ships, was cheering loudly. Later that day, Ross walked through the Galactic Military Academy's main hall. A group of young cadets from various races crowded around a display showing human ship designs. Their instructor, a veteran of the Council fleet, was explaining the advantages of smaller, more agile vessels. "Sir," one cadet asked, "why did everyone think tiny ships were useless?" The instructor smiled. "Because we had forgotten that space combat isn't about who has the biggest ship. It's about who can think creatively, move quickly, and adapt to changing situations. The humans reminded us of that." Ross continued his walk, reaching the Academy's main hangar. There, alongside the massive training vessels used by Council races, sat a human corvette. The Swift Victory's sister ship, Thunder, had been donated to help train the next generation of space officers. "Quite a change from 6 months ago," Lieutenant Adams said, walking up beside him. "Remember when they thought our ships would fit in their cargo holds?" Ross nodded, watching as a mixed group of human and alien instructors prepared for a training exercise. "Sometimes the greatest strength is being underestimated. We knew our ships were capable. We just had to wait for the right moment to prove it." A message flashed on his communicator. The first joint patrol of human and Council ships was ready to launch. Ross had specifically requested that each Council vessel be paired with 2 human ships, creating combined teams that could handle any situation. As he headed to the command center, Ross passed a newly installed plaque on the Academy wall. It bore the words that would become famous throughout Council space: "Judge not by size or power alone, for the smallest ship may carry the greatest courage." Human Space Force motto. The chamber that had once echoed with laughter at the sight of human vessels now served as the center for a new era of galactic defense. The human rapid response fleet had proved that being small didn't mean being weak. Sometimes it meant being exactly what the galaxy needed. Admiral Ross smiled as he watched the joint patrol launch. The Council had learned its lesson, and humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through size or strength, but through innovation, courage, and the willingness to prove that sometimes the smallest ships could make the biggest difference. The Galactic Military Museum's newest wing drew crowds from across Council space. Inside, visitors could find the preserved bridge of the Swift Victory, Admiral Ross's legendary flagship that had led the defeat of the Pirate King's fleet. Today was a special day, the 5-year anniversary of what historians now call the Tiny Fleet Victory. A group of young cadets from the Advanced Tactical Academy gathered around their instructor, an older human wearing a veteran's pin. "This," said Captain Thompson, pointing to a holographic display, "is where everything changed. Watch carefully." The display showed the famous battle, with the human ships executing their perfect wolf pack formations. The cadets, representing 12 different species, watched in awe as the small vessels danced through space with deadly precision. "Sir," asked a young Targon cadet, "is it true that the Council once laughed at human ships?" Thompson smiled. "Oh yes, they thought bigger meant better. But look here." He adjusted the display to show current fleet compositions. Every major race now operated squadrons of smaller, faster vessels alongside their traditional capital ships. In the 5 years since the battle, the galaxy had changed dramatically. Pirates and raiders were rare now. No one wanted to face the combined might of Council dreadnoughts and human-style rapid response ships. Trade flourished as merchants could count on quick help if they ran into trouble. The museum's next exhibit showed the newest class of Council patrol vessel, a joint human-alien design that combined the best of both approaches. At 500 meters, it was smaller than traditional Council ships, but larger than human vessels, featuring both races' technologies. The real victory, Thompson explained to his students, wasn't just defeating the pirates. It was showing the galaxy a better way to think about space combat. Size matters less than skill, speed, and smarts. A commotion near the museum's entrance drew their attention. Admiral Ross himself had arrived for the anniversary ceremony. Though his hair had grayed slightly, he stood as straight and proud as ever. The Swift Victory's original crew gathered around him, including the now Commander Adams. "Look there," Thompson told his cadets, "the man who changed galactic warfare forever." Ross walked through the museum, stopping to chat with visitors and veterans. He paused at a special display showing the original Council chamber where his fleet had once been mocked. The recording played on loop. "These cannot be your actual military vessels." "Quite a difference 5 years makes," said a familiar voice. Speaker Maxwell approached, his ceremonial robes even grander than before. "Who would have thought that day would lead to all this?" Ross gestured at the busy museum, filled with members of every Council race, studying human tactics and ship designs. "We knew humanity had something to offer. We just needed the chance to prove it." "And prove it you did," Maxwell agreed. "The new joint fleet launches next month. 20 ships of every Council race, all built to human rapid response specifications. The galaxy has never been safer." As they walked together, Ross noticed a group of engineering students studying the Swift Victory's design specs. They were excitedly discussing ways to improve on the original, combining technologies from different species to create something even better. "That's the real legacy," Ross said quietly. "Not just showing that small ships could win battles, but teaching the galaxy that innovation and adaptation matter more than tradition and size." Maxwell nodded. "The Council has learned its lesson well. We will never again judge a species' worth by the size of their ships." As the anniversary celebrations continued, Ross watched the next generation of space officers, human and alien alike, learning from humanity's example. The tiny fleet had done more than win a war. It had changed the way an entire galaxy thought about power, size, and the true meaning of strength. Sometimes, he reflected, the biggest changes come in the smallest packages. The massive holographic display at the Center for Galactic Innovation showed a timeline of spaceship development. Starting with the old Council dreadnoughts, it traced the evolution of spacecraft design over the past quarter century. The final image showed the newest vessel class, the Harmony Series exploration ship. "This," explained Dr. Wilson to the gathered crowd, "represents everything we've learned since the famous Tiny Fleet victory. At 600 meters, it's larger than traditional human vessels, but smaller than old Council ships. More importantly, it combines technologies from 17 different species." The audience included retired Admiral Ross, now walking with a cane but his eyes still sharp. Beside him sat the children of his original crew, many now serving on their own ships. They had gathered for the unveiling of humanity's latest contribution to galactic society. The Harmony series isn't just a ship, Wilson continued. It's a philosophy. Every race contributed what they do best. Human maneuverability, Targan power systems, Council structural design, all working together in perfect balance. The hologram shifted to show the ship's revolutionary interior. Unlike the rigid layouts of old Council vessels or the compact efficiency of human ships, this design created spaces that could comfortably accommodate crew members of any size or environmental need. Remember, Ross whispered to his grandson, a young cadet at the academy, when they thought our ships were too small to matter. Now every design team in the galaxy studies human engineering principles. The greatest change wasn't in the ships themselves, but in how the galaxy approached problems. The Council had abandoned its obsession with size and power, focusing instead on efficiency and innovation. When a new spacefaring race was discovered, the first question wasn't how big are their ships, but what can they teach us? The real breakthrough, Wilson explained, activating another display, is the adaptive design system. The ship can reconfigure internal spaces based on mission needs. This concept came from studying how Earth's tiny deep-sea creatures adapt to different pressures. In the audience, former Speaker Maxwell's successor nodded approvingly. The Council chamber itself had been redesigned using these principles, allowing representatives of all sizes to participate comfortably in discussions. But the most important feature, Wilson said with pride, is this. The hologram zoomed in on a plaque mounted in every Harmony series ship. It read, "Size is not destiny. Innovation is our greatest strength." Galactic Unity motto. After the presentation, Ross walked through the center's historical gallery. He passed displays showing the Swift Victory, now permanently preserved as a museum ship. Next to it stood examples of how its design had influenced vessels throughout the galaxy. "Hard to believe it all started with them laughing at our tiny ships," said Commander Adams's daughter, now a ship designer herself. "Dad used to tell me stories about those days." Ross smiled. "We knew we were right about ship design, but we never imagined how it would change everything else. Look there." He pointed to a live feed showing the latest Council session, where representatives from 50 species discussed the Harmony series production plans. "Every one of those races now operates mixed fleets," he explained. "Big ships, small ships, middle-sized ships, each chosen for its purpose, not its size. And they all work together, just like we do." A group of alien children ran past, playing with model ships. They were acting out the famous battle with the Pirate King, but their version had ships of all sizes working together to save the day. "That's the real victory," Ross said quietly. "Not teaching them that small ships can win battles, but teaching them that everyone has something valuable to contribute." Size stopped mattering the day they learned to look deeper. As the sun set outside the center's transparent dome, ships of all sizes moved through the space lanes. Each had its purpose, its role to play in the greater galaxy. None was judged by its size, but by how well it served its crew and mission. The galaxy had learned that the best fleets, like the best societies, found strength in diversity, and it all began because someone dared to laugh at a tiny fleet of human ships.